Heyo and welcome back to Wonderlands gamers. Today we're going through the fastest ways to get to max chaos level, which is currently 35, but it'll likely keep going up. It can be a huge grind that takes like a week of struggling to keep your loot up, or you can smash it out in just a few hours. For example, chaos 0 through 35 takes me about 3 to 4 hours on average. For any character, by the way, of course, the better the build you have, naturally you will go faster, but I have done it on Cybermancer, Spore, and Spellshot, or with gun builds. I've used my Greatborn Companion build. I'm currently halfway there with my Burr no guns build right now, so any character, that's a solid average to base off. To start, of course, you will have to have finished the story, done the Chaos Chamber tutorial, and then from there you'll be able to select the Chaos Trial from the Dragon Lord in the Chaos Chamber. By completing that each time, you will increase your max chaos tier by 1 or 2 levels. It depends on, the new updates. Normal, extended, and featured runs won't increase it, so make sure you do the Chaos Trial if you're trying to level up. The number one goal while leveling through the chaos tiers is to make sure you make the run as easy as possible so you can do them in the shortest amount of time. I mean, of course, you can play however the heck you want, but if you're trying to get there as quickly as possible, that's the best way to do it. Starting with the portals, there are 4 to choose from. The Dragon Lord portal means you'll be given the choice of 2 random curses at the end of your next room. You want to avoid this entirely while leveling because it'll just make your run more difficult. The Butt Stallion portal, though, that'll give you a random buff at the end of your run via some randomly assigned skill points, this increasing your damage and or your survivability. You want to pick these whenever you see them because it'll just make you stronger and you'll be able to clear the rooms faster. The Crystal Chest portal is the next best option. It doesn't actually change like the difficulty of the run, but you will just be rewarded with more crystals at the end of the next room, which means you can spend that on loot later on. The chest portal will give you random loot at the end of your run. Personally, I've never gotten anything worth it, so I'd only choose the chest portal if the only other option is the Dragon Lord portal. You can also make portals elite by spending some crystals on them. This makes enemies considerably stronger in the next room with the reward of more crystal drops. This is great if you're trying to max out your crystal drops, like I said in the previous video, but if you're trying to level, I'd ignore this entirely just to get through the runs as quickly as possible. For the same reason, you generally want to ignore the side objectives unless they're incredibly easy to do, like the Dragon Lord statue. You can easily smash that out real quick for a little bit of a reward, but finishing enemies with melee damage or waiting for the enemies to come to you while you're standing in sacred ground is just a giant waste of time for very little reward, so I would just ignore those. Raid bosses, same thing, they don't have their own drops, so there's no real reason to do them whilst you're leveling. I just keep them for endgame when you want to test out your build and have some fun with a really healthy boss. To make runs even easier and or faster, you can turn your difficulty from intense down to balanced or relaxed if you don't already play on those, just while leveling to speed things up. On top of that, you can also buy any and all damage or survivability buffs during your run. These things do cost crystals, but if it's the difference between you finishing a higher chaos tier or not, it's definitely worth it. Now, the main problem I assume most players run into whilst leveling is your build falls off really quickly, because as you go up the chaos tiers, enemies get up to 1000% extra health, and your gear literally just can't keep up with that with the amount of drops that you're actually getting. So you need better loot. My advice is to go through as many tiers as you possibly can until you essentially hit the wall. Your runs start taking forever, your enemies are just destroying you. By getting as high as you can, your loot luck will increase considerably, along with it the chance of you getting chaotics and volatile legendaries. If you're new to the channel, you want to have your loot luck number as cranked as high as physically possible. I'll link a guide for getting maximum loot luck in the description if you need help with that. But once you hit that wall, just leave the chaos chambers. The bunnies are no longer your friends because you're struggling through the runs on easy difficulty. It's taking you a super long time to get minimal crystals, and therefore in return you're only getting minimal loot from the loot bunnies. Instead, farm one of the 3 bosses that I'd recommend. Keister is a skeleton boss located in Tangledrift. After completing a side mission called A Small Favor, complete that, you'll find the boss at the end, and from my testing, they are the single greatest legendary item farm in the entire game. They do have a few unique attacks which are a little bit difficult, but after a few farms you get used to them, and they're pretty easy to avoid. The Banshee is also a very solid farm, granted a lot more difficult to fight itself, but it has a lot of world drops, and also she has some very solid dedicated drops, including the Automagic.exe pistol, which at least at the current time of making this video is one of the best mobbing guns in the entire game. She's located in Wheatwild Dankness next to the Corrupted Heart Fast Travel Station if you'd like to farm them. Or the final boss, LeChance, located in Walk 2 Shallows, typically isn't anywhere near as good for world drops compared to the other 2 at least, because they're just really good. Compared to all the bosses in the game, they're still a solid choice. But the point being is they're dedicated. The Sword Explosion, they do have 3, but the Sword Explosion got buffed last week and is insanely good. So depending on when you're watching this video, that is a great third option. If you do get yourself a Sword Explosion, you can pretty much carry yourself through the entire game at the moment. Farming any and all of those with the highest loot luck you can manage will be considerably faster than struggling your way through the Chaos Chamber for mineral crystals, allowing you to strengthen up your build for whatever build you're rocking at the time, allowing you to finish off the remaining Chaos levels. Once you hit that, the Chaos Chamber will be way more efficient of a loot spot. For majority of items, at least if you're farming particular dedicateds, then sure, that'll be a better spot to go to. But the loot bunnies in general are a great spot. I've already made a guide on how to max out your crystals per run. If you want to check out that, I'll leave it on screen. If the video did help you out though, feel free to subscribe on your way out. Other than that, we have a Twitch and a Discord community linked down below if you're interested. Until next time, gamers, have a fantastic day. Adios.